Ladies and gentlemen, the only way for me to do this one is in a suit. That's it. You might think it's cringy, you might think it is what it is, but we just got to the finale of season 4 of From. I had to wear a suit for this occasion. I had to do it, but no tie. Fuck ties. Never been a big fan of them. Today we're jumping into the finale episode of season 4 of From, and guys, this was I know I sound like a broken record. I do understand it. I've been seeing your comments, but guys, this was seriously one of the best episodes of the show. Not only was this one of the best episodes of the show, this is absolutely the best finale episode that the show has done. So you know the drill by now, and we got one last hurrah for this season to do these long breakdowns, but we're going to go scene by scene in order, and if you see this little glare thing on my head, it's driving me insane. It really is, but unfortunately, this is my only time I get to shoot, so I'm going to try to mitigate it. I am monitoring myself just so I can make sure that I don't get that in there, so I'm going to try to be mindful of it. But guys, yeah, we're jumping right in. This episode picks up immediately where the last episode left off, where Tabitha is looking at that tarp that they put on that cavern, and they see the monsters on the other side of it. The cowboy monster had just said to Tabitha that, you know, you really shouldn't be doing that. And Tabitha looks terrified, and he tells Tabitha to stay with him, and Jade tells Tabitha to stay with him because they're almost there, and the monsters are on the other side of the tarp, just standing there.
He's just standing there,
waiting to come in once they remove the bones. And up above at the bottle tree, Boyd is pacing around waiting for Jade and Tabitha to signal the radio that they're ready to be picked up. And Costa looks very concerned because they've been down there for a while. And then we cut to Jade and Tabitha, who begin putting all the bones that they collected into the bags, and there's so many bones. I wasn't able to count all of the skulls there, so I'm not one of those aficionados, at least I'm not at this point of recording this, where I know every little detail of what the bones, who the bones, when the bones, where the bones, why the bones. I don't know all the things. I do know that there was a collection of skulls, so it was at least 4. I just don't know how many there are, and I know we get a reveal later in this episode with which one was actually their daughter that they sacrificed, which is really interesting. But anyway, back above as they're collecting the bones, we see Boyd, and he's trying to get everyone in their places so that they could pull them out as soon as physically possible. And Kristi asks what plan B is if they can't pull the tree out, and Boyd says there is no plan B. And they're kind of fucked. They're kind of fucked. What would the plan B be? I don't know. I don't know. I'm confused by that just as much as they are. And as that lack of plans is going on down below, Tabitha tells Jade that they should signal the ones above to pull up the tree, and Jade says not yet to this, and Tabitha asks why, and then Jade further explains that the second the rope drops, once the tree is pulled up, she needs to be ready to go up there with the bones, and Tabitha doesn't understand why it has to be this way, saying that the bones have to go up last, and they're the only thing protecting this chamber once the tree is out. And Jade says that he lied about that, and he says there's nothing protecting the chamber once the tree itself is out. He explains that the bones won't stop the monsters from coming in, and this is very interesting to me. If Jade knew this all along, he willingly knew and understood that getting rid of this bottle tree would cause chaos, and it did cause chaos, but like, how and why would you do that? Like, I just don't understand. So to me, I take this as Jade's intention was really, he knew that the magic bottle tree was the source of a lot of this stuff. I know it's all intertwined because the roots became the symbol. I understand that. I really do, but that's such a big integral part, and we see later it was not a good idea to get rid of this frickin' thing. Okay, anyway, Tabitha is righteously shocked by this, as was I. Clearly, I was a little apoplectic by this, to be honest. But Jade explains that it's because if Boyd realized that it wasn't safe at all, then he would have scrapped the whole thing, and he couldn't let that happen. And Jade then goes on to say that she needs to finish this, and that he'll stay down there and fend them off as much as possible, essentially sacrificing himself, which I think is I just have to say it here, I think that is a full 180 moment for the character of Jade. Jade, to me, has always always been a very good character. He was a douchebag, yes, sure, that is true, but he's always been good. Like, at his core, he has meant well, despite him coming across like a dick. So, essentially, he's sacrificing himself so that she could go and get the bones to safety and they could all go home. But still, again, what is the plan to go home? You grab the bones and then what? You just morph out of the town? I still don't understand that. Like, I really don't. But anyway, Tabitha is begging Jade not to do this, and Jade says that her children deserve to go home, and then Jade then signals on the radio as Tabitha continues to beg him not to do this. And Jade continues saying, I'm glad it was you that I got to spend all of those lifetimes with. And I love that. I'm not a shipper of the two of them. I'm not a shipper of characters in general. Just you wait till we get to Dead City. But I'm not a shipper of characters as it is. But obviously, considering their past and their history and all of that stuff, I think this is very appropriate, and it is nice to see. Like, it's a little weird that Jim was in the picture and that now he's dead, and she said, like, but it's not really love. Here, it's a different thing. It's a celestial love. Like, it's nice to see this. I enjoy moments like this, and it's just great dialogue from the two of them. But anyway, he signals the radio above so they could start the truck. They could start, like, pulling at the truck, and they could pull out the bottle tree. And I'm surprised. This truck must be, like, Iron Man, because I don't know how they did. I don't know how this worked. Whatever. Anyway, as soon as the bottle tree starts getting pulled out by the roots, but not fully wide open, all the monsters just start coming in, proving Jade's theory 100% correct. And the cowboy monster comes in and he says, it's nice all of us being together again, to Jade and Tabitha as he walks closer toward them. And as the monsters are walking closer towards Jade and Tabitha, the bottle tree is fully pulled out by its roots, revealing sunlight, which shines directly on the cowboy monster's face, causing him to move back. He's like, ugh. He's like, brother, ugh. You know what I mean? That was so fucking stupid. Anyway, that's true. That's why he like panicked away. So they like panic, and this is a major reveal now that these monsters can't go into sunlight, and it actually makes sense relative to what happens in the big reveal later in the episode with someone who we'll get to. Fine, major spoilers ahead. Fatima turns into a monster this episode. Craziness. We will 100% get to that. But it's an interesting reveal, and maybe that's why it took her so long to transition, because she had to do it once she was in the caves because of the light. I don't know. I'm rambling here. But really interesting. We're going to come back to Fatima, don't worry. And by the way, this is a natural time for me to say, if you aren't already, get subscribed, because this isn't the end of From. We still have season 5. I have interviews coming out. I have a ton of stuff in the pipeline, deep dives, and all of that stuff. So we're not done with From. We are going to be talking about other things too on this channel. This channel is not solely a From channel, but we will still be covering From during this hiatus. So definitely get subscribed and hype this video if you can. It would actually really help me out a ton. I put so much work into this season. It's been a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So I'd really appreciate all the support I could get there. But anyway, back to this. So now that the bottle tree is out, all of the people above go to run and grab that ladder as Boyd shouts down to Jade and Tabitha, and Jade screams up to Boyd saying, get that ladder down here right now. So they then drop down that ladder, and Tabitha starts to climb up. But oh wait, remember? Sophia, just the episode before, was sawing at the ladder. And that's going to come into play because as she's climbing up, all of the monsters are looking at Tabitha climbing up, clearly terrified and concerned because they see that they have the bones. You could see on the monsters' faces that they're concerned by this. That's also a big reveal because it proves that they know that this is the key to maybe, if not getting everyone home, getting the next step of this game in the favor of our group. And it's clear we're watching a game of some kind being played by the ending with the boy in white and Sophia. Again, we are going to come to it. I'm not going to get there yet. I just want to run through the episode. But as she continues to climb up, big shock, the ladder breaks due to Sophia cutting the rope in episode 9, and after the rope breaks, Boyd screaming down to Tabitha and Kristi, who is above, starts to look up as the daytime turns to nighttime out of nowhere, and instantly Boyd and everyone stop what they're doing, and they look around confused as to, oh, how is it night now all of a sudden? And it's oh man, I gotta tell you, watching this scene was really, really cool to see, because as soon as you saw it shut to nighttime, which is interesting how they did that. It was an interesting, I think it was a camera technique they did to shut down, I think it was the shutter speed, it looked like, to bring it down like that. It was really interesting to see the way they shot that. But it was really cool nonetheless to see that just to see that this plan, what they did, at least with the bones and the bottle tree, whether good or bad, reflected on the town. And to some extent, Sophia wasn't really well prepared for this to happen. So it's very interesting to see how this town is reacting. Yes, we don't have the answers, and I know a lot of people are still going to complain and be like, well, we didn't get answers here, but no, this is still big. This is really interesting. So anyway, there's like the monsters don't have to worry about it being sunlight out anymore. Like before, you understand, Jade and Tabitha were protected in that little sliver of sunlight that was there before, but now that it's dark, there is nothing protecting them, so the monsters can easily just kill Jade and Tabitha. And so obviously Jade and Tabitha are there, and their faces begin to peel back, like the monsters' faces begin to peel back as if to kill Jade and Tabitha. And as they get closer, they're nearing, as they're getting closer to Jade and Tabitha, there's a massive, massive earthquake that starts erupting, causing rocks and everything to, fall in the caverns, which I gotta say, there was no avoiding it in my head. I was thinking about Cersei and Jaime Lannister in this moment, not to spoil anything for Game of Thrones, but I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh, rocks? What's happening here? You guys, if you've seen Game of Thrones in the ending, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, the monsters start to duck for cover as the earthquake is erupting, because I guess they don't want to die. So they all get stuck there, and they're all earthquaking as it goes on. As this is going down, we get the opening credits, and then we pick right back up, and it's Kenny and Victor, and they're in the sheriff's station witnessing this massive earthquake as day is turned into night, and Victor is pleading to Kenny to get him out, saying that he's never seen anything like this before and that this is brand new. And Victor starts screaming to Kenny, saying that he told him not to pull down that tree, screaming why didn't they listen to him, which is so true. And this guy's been here for 40 years. I think he knows the difference between what's fooling people and what isn't by now in The Boy in White, and we clearly get the reveal later that the Boy in White is good, at least to some extent. I mean, he still is in some form in a weird partnership with the Man in Yellow by the way they communicate about what's going on. There's something there, but he's clearly the good. She's the bad and he's the good. Victor definitely knows this. I don't know why more people aren't listening to him. Anyway, we then cut to Jade and Tabitha, who are still ducking for cover and then as the earthquake stops, they see that all the monsters start to go back towards them again, and they're obviously freaking out, and they see an exit route as this is coming up and as they're slowly getting their footing again. So they sprint toward it away from the monsters, and there's this little tight crevice that they have to get through. So that's what they run towards. And then we cut back to Boyd, Kristi, and all of them who are above, and Boyd is shouting down the hole where the bottle tree once was to Jade and Tabitha, asking if they're still there. And the problem is that he's shouting down there, they start to hear the screams of the monsters who are now coming out of the cavern to go after them. So Acosta's telling Boyd that they have to go, and Boyd is refusing, saying that he has to go down there. And then in the background, annoying fucking Patty is screaming and having a full-on panic attack. And Kristi says to Boyd that if they don't go down there now, everyone else is going to die. And as she says this, they look around and see all the monsters starting to walk toward them in a circle, and they're walking seemingly faster than normal, except for the one bride. And the one bride was honestly creepy as hell in this episode. But for some reason, Patty, who is still having a panic attack, is just frozen solid and not moving. And we're going to come to it in a minute, but I got to tell you before we do, this was just a waste of screen time. It was cool. I'm not saying what happened with Patty, what happened here wasn't cool, but Patty's panic attack just padded the screen time so much. Now, that being said, this was a very jam-packed episode, so even if it did pad the screen time, it didn't really do it in a way that was like terrible, because we still got to a lot of stuff, but it honestly did piss me off. This episode's 48 minutes, despite all of those rumors online saying it was an hour and 30 minutes. Fucking stupid. I'm recording this a few days before. Anyway, that being said, I didn't like this because it did run the screen time long, but I did like this, like the car shot we got. We're going to get to it. Boyd then goes to Patty and grabs Patty, and as he's bringing her into the car, he starts shooting at the monsters, which literally makes no sense because it's been proven time and time again that shooting the monsters doesn't do anything. But either way, I digress. Either way, they make it all to the cars and they start to drive away. But before we get to see that scene, we cut back to Tabitha and Jade, and they're still within that crevice within the cavern trying to find an exit, and the monsters are like really close behind them. And as they're trying to run away from the monsters through the cavern and the crevice, they eventually end up at a dead end and realize they're trapped. And they're trapped in that little place in the past where Tabitha had saw like that little girl through the bars in like, it was like a bone cage sort of thing. I don't know how to describe it, but this is clearly the same place that was, almost like it was a foreshadow of that to happen, which I think it was, because I think these writers know what they're doing. And anyway, as they're trying to remove the bones that are there, the monsters come into the space where they're in, just straight up cornering them. And then as they get in there, like as they start to come in, another earthquake happens, more rocks fall, and they're entirely blocked from them. So the monsters are cut off. Like as soon as the rocks start to fall, the monsters like go back. So it's really just Jade and Tabitha who are now stuck in this crevice because of the boulders. So that puts them in a little bit of a pickle, maybe a cucumber. I don't know. But I like this setup. I'm a big fan of what they did here. But after this, we cut back to the crew who is now above in the cars, and they're driving back toward town, and Patty is still having that fucking panic attack and is screaming, hurry up, they're coming, and absolutely freaking out and annoying everyone, including me, but especially Acosta, who says to Boyd that they better shut her the fuck up, which is true. And as they're driving, which I thought was interesting because we'd never seen anything like this before, there's monsters that come sprinting to the cars and slamming against the glass. And Patty can't have any of it, so she steals Boyd's gun to try to kill herself, but idiotically blows out the window. And now they have a wide open window as they're driving back to town. And Patty does have one good point, though, in all of this, despite me thinking she's being annoying, but she's saying that whatever they did made the town worse, made things worse, and now they're going to get punished for it. But like, bro, in the same vein, Patty, shut the fuck up. If I was Boyd, I'd push her out the window. I'd let her have that freaking panic attack. Like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? You know what we're all about. You know what we're doing here. Why do you gotta ruin the moment? Fuck you, Patty. Anyway, after this, we cut to Marielle and Fatima, which there's a big scene, obviously, with Marielle in this episode. And they're in the clinic, and they're concerned, saying that they need to do something because it just turned to nighttime out of nowhere, and Marielle doesn't know what to do. Marielle doesn't want to do anything like leaving, though, because they're worried that they're going to get killed since it's now nighttime. Like, what can they do? And Fatima's trying her best to leave to help them because she's genuinely okay, even though her heart rate is down. And Marielle and Kristi just had her doing puzzles the whole time, and it's really not doing her any good. And she's all worried, Fatima's all worried that Ellis is out there possibly dead, and she wants to do whatever she can to save them, especially with her superpowers that we now learn is her being a monster, whatever. Anyway, as she explains this to Marielle, she begins to sense that Smiley is approaching the clinic, and it's bad news bears for Marielle, clearly. She tells Fatima that Smiley, I'm sorry. Fatima explains to Marielle that Smiley's coming, and then it cuts to Smiley, who is, in fact, coming. He's on his way. Giving that creepy freaking smile. And Marielle says that it's okay because they have the talisman, but as they go to look for the talisman, she sees that it's not on the door. And the earthquake itself caused the talisman to fall on the ground, and it's in a spot that's hard to reach. So Fatima and Marielle try to grab it to the best of their ability, but not in time because Smiley comes in through the door. And Marielle and Fatima run into a room, and Fatima asks her to hang the talisman, and so she does. But as she's trying to do it, I guess, they don't have enough time because Smiley just flies the door open, and Smiley looks... I don't know why. I thought this was really funny, but Smiley looks at Fatima and says, "Mother." Just the way he said it, it was so funny to me. I don't know why. And then Marielle, even more idiotically, decides to grab a knife out of the drawer as if the knife's going to do anything. It's just convenient. By the way, what's up with the knives this season? Between the last episode with it being on the counter or whatever it was in Sophia's room or in Sophia's house, now it's just in a random drawer. What the fuck are these knives? What are they, like in faraway trees? I don't understand it. Anyway, she grabs the knife. She grabs the knife and is pointing it at Smiley, saying, "Stay back." And she's trying to get him to get out. But then his face peels back. Like the monster, the Smiley's face peels back underneath him, and his hand slices her stomach wide open. And Smiley begins screaming super loud. And as he does, so does Fatima. And okay, before we get any further here, so the two of them are screaming, right? They're both screaming, and I gotta say, maybe it was different on my screener one. Maybe it's different when it aired. I don't know if they have time to touch things. I don't know how that works. I genuinely don't know. But I gotta tell you, from an experience on my end, at least with how I was listening to it, I did think it was pretty poor ADR work, because I didn't understand that Fatima was screaming, other than her going you know what I mean? It sounded like it was just Smiley's scream. It was confusing to me, but it was clearly meant to show that Fatima herself was actually screaming like one of them. It was supposed to be a big reveal, but at least for me, in the moment, it didn't feel that way. It just felt like Smiley was screaming and Fatima was like, "Stop!" That's what it seemed like to me. I'm pretty sure I interpreted it wrong, because the only reason I think that is by the way that after Marielle gets sliced, Marielle is terrified to look at Fatima. We're going to get to that, but I don't know. I just want to say, if I had one nitpick, this is one of those moments. Like, a lot of people have been giving me shit lately because they think I'm just all just glazing the fuck out of this show. But this is a moment that did break my immersion, and I'm just being honest, and it's a shame that it did happen in this episode, because this show has not broken my immersion. But this is supposed to be a big moment, and Fatima doesn't even I can't even tell that it's her. Whatever. I just had to vocalize it, because it was something that I genuinely didn't like with how they blocked that and shot that or whatever. Anyway, Fatima's clearly screaming at Smiley to stop, so Smiley does stop, and that Smiley's face returns to normal, normal human form, and he looks at Fatima, surprised by her shrieking back at him, and he says, "Interesting." And then he gives this face thing. I don't know what the hell he does. He gives something like that, and he just turns around and fucks off and walks out. But unfortunately, it's too late for Marielle, because her stomach is ripped open and she's dying. And Fatima is trying her best to help and Marielle, like I mentioned, tells Fatima to stay away from her. And Fatima's explaining that she's just trying to help. Please trust me. And Fatima asks what to do, and Marielle says just get Kristi, because she's clearly bleeding out. And again, I just have to bring this up again here. I think the audio here kind of killed it for me, because this was supposed to be the start of that big reveal that she's turning into a monster, but it played as not that. It played as, it really just, in my opinion, it played as Fatima just screaming "Stop!" to Smiley, because why else would Marielle be "Get away from me," if it wasn't the case that, whatever, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but it was something that definitely bothered me. Anyway, Kristi and Ellis and a group of others, they're approaching the clinic, and as they are, they see that the clinic door is wide open, and they see Smiley walking outside of the clinic, and this causes Kristi to obviously panic, and Smiley is staring at their car, and then they all run inside, and Kristi runs into the room where Marielle is, and Marielle is bleeding out. And I gotta tell you, I usually don't get emotional unless it's Toy Story. I usually don't get emotional on shit. I'm not gonna lie, Toy Story always gets me, by the way. I just have to say that here. Toy Story 3 got me, 4 got me. I didn't see 5 yet, but 5 will get me, I have a feeling. Anyway, this scene really did get me, because I really did think, and I forgive me for not knowing off of the top of my head, but Kristi's actress's acting was, actually both of their acting was absolutely phenomenal in this episode and in this scene. It was super tragic to see the way that Marielle really just wanted one last kiss before they go, because even Kristi realized there was nothing to do. I mean, she was cut wide open, she was bleeding out, and it was just, honestly, it was a very sad death. And I have to say, I'm going to be honest, Marielle was never my favorite character in the show. Not that I disliked her by any means. I don't know if I'd go that far as to say I disliked her, but she was never really my favorite character. So, like, it shouldn't have been that big of a scene, but it was a very big scene to me because of what it does for Kristi, and also more or less what it does for Marielle, because Marielle this whole season was like the only one who was genuinely terrified of dying, and not because she's scared of the pain. That was never her problem. Her problem was she saw that people suffer after their death and that they never get to escape this place. So to me, I'm thinking as I'm watching this, like, damn, like, Marielle has like the most tragic death because she saw the other side and now she's getting to see it in the afterlife in that way. It's just an interesting tragic play on the death. And just in general, it was so emotional. Kristi's actress's acting here is some of the best in the series, and just the way that Marielle was like, kiss me before you go, and then when they kiss, she dies. It was tragic and it was great, and we're gonna come to it, but Kristi's crying later when Boyd comes in is like phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal acting. Anyway, we're going to come back to it, but this was a very sad scene, and we get what... See, characters aren't safe here. I know Marielle wasn't the biggest, and I know we're going to get to it. Elgin wasn't the biggest either, but it's really interesting to see that we're actually getting characters dying in this episode. I know it took the whole season, but it is nice to see. Speaking of Elgin, we cut back to him and Sophia, and they're locked inside the diner. And Clara is there too, just in the background, as she always is, and Sophia is trying to make a bargain I meant to say bargain, but I'm thinking of Elgin. She's trying to make a bargain with Elgin, who had previously discovered that photo of Sophia back when Sophia was a real person before she died. And need I say, I have to bring this up here because I didn't even think about it in the moment in episode 9, but what a freaking doofus Elgin is for going right to the source and saying, hey, isn't this you in this photo? I understand, honestly, from his perspective, I don't think he was even thinking, like, that's you. Like, I think he's just like, oh my God, look, this looks like you. Isn't that crazy? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I do sympathize a little bit with Elgin because I think from his perspective, he obviously had no idea. Us as viewers knew, but he didn't really. But anyway, it's still stupid as fuck. I don't know why you wouldn't look at this and be like, well, there's this man in yellow thing, like, I should probably give this to Boyd, especially him, who has been really keen on answers. Whatever. Anyway, that's wasted in this episode. Whatever. Sophia's claiming to offer Elgin the chance to go home, and in return, she just wants a favor from him, just like she did with Clara. And she's explaining to Elgin that pretty soon this will all feel like a bad dream that fades away over time, and all he'd have to do is help her. And Elgin is hesitant, but he says that he understands, but he refuses to accept her offer. And the more hesitant he becomes, the more mad Sophia gets. And Sophia then goes on to explain, do you know why it's dark outside? And it's because that we're getting close to the end. And it gets very messy in the end, and she's trying to spare Elgin from that. And Elgin tries to walk towards the door, and Sophia turns around and says, Elgin, where do you think you're going? There's nowhere for you to hide. And then corners him into the back of the diner. And in the back of the diner, Sophia is demanding that Elgin give her his hands, and she says that she's going to ask one last time if Elgin will accept her bargain, and Elgin begins praying. And Sophia shrugs and says, you people and your prayers. And as she does, she grips tight onto Elgin's hands and somehow causes him to basically bleed from his eyes and mouth. I guess like she crushed his brain or something. I don't really know. And it's funny, I've been watching Discord, and they, for some reason, they put this in the trailer, but it is true. I literally have it in my notes. As she's doing this, Sophia's like orgasming over the satisfaction of this to Elgin, and in the background, you can see it's becoming daylight, so like, I guess her climax is her becoming daylight. I'm just joking. I know that's not what it is, but that is genuinely what it seemed like. I was like, what the fuck? And look, I'm not trying to be all like childish with my humor, but I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's what it looked like, to be honest. I'm just gonna be real. Gotta be careful here, Jesus. But anyway, once she finishes, she says, oh, look, the sun's back up to his dead body. And Sophia demands Clara get rid of the body, and that it's not her problem, because Clara's like, what do I do with it? And she's like, that's not my problem. And Sophia walks off. And then Clara asks what happens next to Sophia, and Sophia says, now I light the match and I watch it all burn. And as she does, she takes the diner's talisman off the wall and walks out of the diner. So I have to say this here, and I have to talk about it. I'm not sure how I feel about Elgin's death. I feel like all he did was piss people off, have basically no story, and then die. And it's very unfortunate to me because it feels like he knew more about this place than most people, going all the way through back to his introduction. I was not the biggest Elgin fan, just like I wasn't the biggest Marielle fan. I wasn't the biggest fan of their characters, not the actors. The actors are doing a great job. It's not them. It's the character, and it was how the character was written. It was meant to be like this. But I'm disappointed because Elgin definitely had potential. By the way, he had the seizure coming in, by the way he asked if there was lakes nearby, by the way he was the one very adamant on saying, like, this is clearly like there's so much being thrown at us, we don't know what is true. He knew a lot. And it's weird that they killed him off in this moment. I don't know. Those are just my feelings. I'm really just not keen on the way that went down. But look, I am glad our characters are not safe. I do like that, genuinely. Anyway, his death aside, after this, we cut to Henry. You know what? Before I even get to this, yeah, okay, so I liked this episode a lot. This is, honestly, I'm not even kidding when I say this is one of my favorite episodes of the whole show. But what we're going to get into with Henry is one of my biggest complaints of the episode of the season 2. I'm not a fan of this because I loved what they did with his character for these last few episodes with these visions. But because of the runtime of this episode, this storyline got really neglected, in my opinion. It was beautiful the way Victor saved Ethan later in the episode, but I was not a fan of how quick this unfolded. I get it. It was nice in the moment, but it was too quick, and then it just never got brought up again. Like, I know that's a season 5 thing. We're going to come to it, but I just have to give my reservation about it. I was not a fan of that in this episode. But anyway, we cut to Henry, and he's in the bedroom that he shares with Victor, and he's putting the stuff back together from the earthquakes because it all got knocked down to the ground, and Donna comes in the room and asks if Henry is okay. And Henry says that it turned dark in the middle of the day and that this can't be real, and this further convinced him that this can't be real. And as Henry continues to say that this can't be real, Donna says that Donna says that she thinks Victor needs to go, Henry needs to go down and visit Victor in the sheriff's station just to make sure he's all right. And Victor says, or Henry says that he will after he straightens up the room. And Donna offers help, but Henry says that he can manage. So Donna begins to walk out when Henry finds a tin can filled with bullets. Hence, this town is going to be providing everything that it needs, which there is a clear flashback to in this scene. It's obviously the town rep saying that they have the tools that he needs to eliminate the anchor. And Henry asks Donna why Victor had bullets in a tin can, and Donna explains that for a while Victor carried around a gun in his lunchbox, but it's now down in the sheriff's station and all of that stuff. And there was a little flash cut, like I mentioned, to him saying they eliminate the anchor stuff and that the town will provide everything he needs. And then Donna, just to make it worse, inadvertently tells Henry to go down to see his son. So basically he got the bullets and then he got the cue from the person saying he's there, go shoot him. Anyway, Henry knows what he has to do now, kill Victor, because he fully accepts that this is all a dream based off of it going dark during the middle of the day. We're going to come back to it, and I will give more thoughts as we come to it. But after this, we cut to Boyd, and he's walking into the clinic, and he sees Randall outside. And Randall's obviously disturbed because he just witnessed someone he was an acquaintance with, Marielle, die. And Boyd asks what happened, but Randall doesn't say anything. So Boyd goes inside, and Fatima's inside explaining the events of Marielle's death to Ellis when Boyd walks in and asks if Fatima's okay. And then he starts to ask where Kristi is, and Boyd goes in to Kristi's room. And Boyd's there to console Kristi, who is sitting there on the edge of the bed on the floor, still holding Marielle. And Kristi can't even speak or say hi, which, again, phenomenal acting. It's a shame off the top of my head I can't remember her actress's name, but man, she carried this episode with the way she delivered that performance. The way she couldn't mutter the words hi was just so tragic and so sad. And seeing Boyd hug Kristi almost like Kristi is his daughter, the way they hugged was just, it was so nice. It was such a nice moment. And again, her acting is just top notch here because I don't cry in shows. I don't get emotional. But this one, my eyes might have gone moist. Moist critical here, my eyes might have been. Not going to lie, I fucking hate the word moist, but I just have to say it. There's a lot of weird innuendos in this episode between Sophia and moist. But anyway, Jesus Christ. Okay, back to it. The one thing I will say about this is this reminded me in a lot of ways of a death scene in The Walking Dead's comics. I actually, I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it. Even if I bring it up, I feel like it's going to spoil it for you. But for those of you who know a character who dies in the comics that is close to Rick, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to move past it. Whatever. Anyway, it's only in the comics. Anyway, after this, we cut to a shot of the bottle tree, which is now ripped open. And from the center, where the grave was for the bones, red lightning shoots upward into the sky, out through where the hole was, where the root of the tree was. And it's now lightning across all of Fromville. And it's a very, very, very severe lightning storm that's all red. And it causes everyone to look up. Donna, Ethan, Julie, and they're looking up from Colony House. And we're going to get to it. There's a car coming. But hey, I got to say, I don't know why the fuck they would put this in the trailer. I'm just being honest with you. Because I got the screeners, I never saw trailers. So this is the only breakdown that I'm doing. This is the only breakdown that I'm doing where I'm talking about this because I saw the trailer. But why would they show this in the trailer? I genuinely don't understand why they would show this. I think it's absolutely abhorrent that they would show this in the trailer. What a joke. I gotta tell you, I bought a camera, just some inside baseball here. You're probably seeing a little bit of a difference in the video. Very small, probably not too much. But I gotta tell you, I should have never bought a camera that doesn't have a fan. Because look at this thing. Look at this thing. This camera here, this camera is my Sony a7 IV. I just got to give you some inside baseball for 2 seconds. This camera was all in. This was like with the lens, this was like almost like $3,500 for the business expense, whatever. This camera overheats in 40 minutes. I don't know why I would do this. So I switched to my Sony FX30 because I don't know why. Well, I don't know why I bought this frickin' thing. I really don't. It's a great quality image. You could tell the quality's less on this, but whatever. Anyway, so I had to switch cameras because that one overheated. Piece of shit. Anyway, whatever. I guess first world problems. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to come back to it because now we're at the part where Donna and Ethan and Julie, they're looking up at the red lightning, and they're looking at it from Colony House. And as the lightning is going on, a car of people, including Acosta, Sarah, and Bhakta, and Patty, come to Colony House. I don't know why it took them so long to get up there. And Donna goes to greet them, and Tabitha and Jade are not inside the cars, which obviously Ethan and Julie see. And then when Donna goes down to talk to Acosta, they could see even more that they're not there. So obviously obviously Ethan and Julie begin to panic. And Donna looks at the kids concerned, and then they just both begin crying. And Ethan runs inside, and Julie runs after him. And what we get from that is a wonderful scene from Ethan's actor. I think his name is Simon Webster, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but absolutely beautiful performance by him later in this episode. Some of the best, especially for a child actor. Fantastic performance. But we'll come back to it because after this, we cut to Sophia and she goes inside the church and she takes the talisman off the wall. And then we cut back to Henry and then Henry walks inside of the sheriff's station looking for Victor. But Victor and Kenny are not there, so he's left all alone. Where Victor and Kenny went, I honestly have no idea, because they never address it in this episode. But anyway, because he's all alone, he then starts to go through all the drawers, and eventually he finds a revolver, which is the one I'm pretty sure is Victor's, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know why that one would be the only one loose hanging out. Anyway, Kenny walks in after him, and Henry asks Henry what he's doing, and Henry just says, "Did you see the lightning? I gotta go by," which I think is so funny. Anyway, then we cut back to Ethan, and this is where it gets really good. Ethan's in the kitchen of Colony House, and Julie and Donna come in after him, and Simon Webster gives what I think is the best performance he's given in the show, where he absolutely breaks down, and he's terrified but what Victor told him, even though he was like good with it prior. He's actually terrified about what Victor told him before about being alone and all of that stuff, because he now believes for a fact that that is coming true. And Donna tries her best to console Ethan, but as she begins doing so, almost in like a poltergeist way, all of the cabinets start swinging open and closed, and things get thrown around from the cabinets, which is pretty much identical to what happened when Jim died. So this town is clearly taunting these kids and into insinuating that the mom died. Because it's the same thing that happened. Anyway, Ethan sees this as an obvious confirmation that this is all happening again to him. And as this is going on, Donna tells them that they need to go because glass is being thrown around everywhere. So they go into the living room, and this is the actual moment where Ethan starts to break down. And I loved his performance. I thought he did such a fantastic job in this moment. And Julie also, I will say, Hannah Cheramy did a phenomenal job. I hope I pronounced that right, because the way she consoles Ethan and says that she doesn't know how they're going to get through it, but they're going to do it together. I thought that was absolutely beautiful as well, and I love their dynamic here. I think the two of them, for being young actors and actresses, I know Hannah's a little bit older, but for them being young and performing this way, they're just doing such a good job. They really are. Like, I'm glad this show opened that for them, because I hope their careers go far, because they really did so wonderful in this scene. And I think it's one of the best moments of the episode, just being honest with you, because I think it really stands out to their performance. I think it's really good. But anyway, after this, Kenny's in the sheriff's station cleaning up when Boyd walks in. Boyd goes into his room and Kenny follows, and Boyd says that Victor was right, that they shouldn't have pulled down the tree. And Acosta walks in calling for Boyd, and she's asking Boyd to go back down there because Jade and Tabitha are still there, and the bones in general are still there. And Boyd's reluctant to do this because even with the bones, they have no idea what they would do with them. And Kenny asks if there's any chance that that Jade and Tabitha survived, and Boyd genuinely doesn't think so. By the way, he says, "How, Kenny? There's one exit out of that chamber. If they were down there, if they were alive, they'd be here right now." And Acosta then goes on to say that they can't just give up. And Boyd screams, saying, "Then tell me how, because they just made the sun go down and red lightning come out." And as Boyd is shouting, a signal comes on the radio insinuating that Jade and Tabitha are trying to connect with them. And Sarah hears it and interrupts Boyd's screaming to tell him that. They're alive down there, and we cut to Jade and Tabitha, who are in fact the ones trying to connect with them on the radio, but unfortunately the battery died in the radio, so they only were able to get a few signals out, and they're both not sure what to do, because even if they do hear the signal, they're trapped in a really hard to find spot, and Jade thinks they're gonna die down there. And Tabitha says not to give up, so she starts trying to remove the bone gate, like, with her hands, and they basically start digging, like, with their hands and all of that stuff, and as they're doing so, Tabitha thanks Jade for what he did back there, basically planning on sacrificing himself so that she could leave with her children. And Jade says, "Well, you know what they say, women and children first," in a joking way. And then he says, "You're welcome." And I love Jade. I really do. I love Jade. He's such a fantastic character. After this, we cut to Kristi, Ellison Randall, and Fatima, and they're all taking Marielle's body out of the clinic and putting it into a wheelbarrow, and Randall seemingly brings it down towards the church. And then Kristi says she's going to head down to the church with them, and Boyd tells Ellis and Fatima to come inside, and when they go inside, Boyd explains that he's going to go down there to find Jade and Tabitha because of the radio signal. And Ellis says to Boyd, "How can you be sure that the radio signal was from Jade and Tabitha, not the monsters?" And this is my thought exactly. Obviously, we know it is them, but yes, this is a death trap, in my opinion. I think Boyd does have Ellis has the right idea, but Boyd doesn't know for certain, and he's saying that's why he's going to go down there alone. But Ellis obviously offers to help, because how can Boyd carry two people out if both of them are injured? So he says that they're going to need an extra hand doing that. And then Fatima chimes in, saying that she'll help too because she sent Smiley and feels them when they're close, and she could possibly let them know when they're coming and act as basically like a radar system to try to deter them. As she's explaining this, we then cut to Sophia, who goes into the sheriff's station and takes the talismans from there and puts it in her bag. After this, Henry is back in his room, and he is loading the revolver that he stole from the sheriff's station, and as he does, Victor walks in the door and Henry hides the gun under his bed. Victor comes in and he wants to talk to Henry and he starts saying that today is scary and nothing like that ever happened before. And Victor asks why Henry is sitting there all alone, and Henry says that he's just thinking. And then Victor goes up to him and asks if he did something wrong, and Henry says that he didn't. And I love that we're getting this from Victor. Victor is really feeling more like a man this season, which I love. Not enough to where it's like, oh, this is a totally different Victor, but you could see the pure character development. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I love where it came. Victor then goes on to explain that he was different before and that he was happy, and that Victor then goes on to say we even dragged our beds in there so we could be roommates. And then once he said about the man in yellow, everything changed. And Victor says that he ruined it by showing him the picture of the man in yellow eating Miranda. And Henry then goes on to say no, son, you didn't ruin it. The problem is it was never real. And as he does, he pulls out the gun from under his bed, pointing it at Victor. And Victor looks very concerned, righteously. He's got a gun pointed at him. And then he asks Henry why he has that. And Henry said he's seen what's real and that he needs to go back. And Henry explains, you begged me to go back. You have a son, Victor. You were happy. And as he does, he begins aiming the gun right at Victor. And Victor begins to explain to Henry that something here has lied to him, which is true. Something has lied to him, clearly. And Henry said that he's been lying to himself. Victor then begins screaming, please, begging for his life, which is so sad to see from Victor. And Henry says, it's time to stop. I'm so sorry. And right as he's about to shoot Victor, at the exact moment, Ethan walks in the room calling for Victor, causing Henry to look and point the gun that is about to be shot at Ethan, which allowed Victor at that moment to tackle Henry, clearly saving Ethan in the moment, and push the gun out of his hand and scream at Henry. And he then goes on to, I'll explain in a minute, but he then goes on to say, why are you doing this? You said that we would be okay. You said that you would protect me. Why would you come here and do this? And Henry's apologizing, and Victor is still screaming, why? And I just have to say this here. Look, I love this scene because it is the amalgamation of all of this. And this was the big build-up. This was honestly the most, to me, this was the scene I was most looking forward to in this episode. Yes, we were going to get big things, based off of episode 9. And mind you guys had to wait a week. I had to wait almost a month for me to get the screener for this episode. I was not told that I was even going to get this episode. I thought maybe they were just saving for me to watch it with all of you. I had no idea. So I had to wait a long period of time. So I had a lot of time to sit and think on this one. This was the scene that I was most excited to see going into episode 10. Yes, I was excited for the bones. I was excited to see where it went, all that stuff with Clara, blah, blah, blah. But this, of all things, these visions, they were so big to me. They were so monumental. And then the payoff was a minute scene? A minute 30? The dialogue was boom, boom, I think you're meant to me. Oh, gun, blah, blah, blah. And then it's over. I understand what they were going for. This kind of gives me, in a sense, not the same way, and I hope they don't do this shit in season 5, but this kind of gives me season 8 of Game of Thrones vibes. In the sense, hear me out, not that it's bad, hear me out. In season 8 of Game of Thrones, the stories that happen, I thought made sense, and I thought if they were given enough time, I'd be all on board, the things like Daenerys, if the biggest one is Jaime Lannister that I have a problem with, but even that, Jaime Lannister going back to Cersei, you know what I mean? All of those stories I thought could have made sense if they had more time. But because they were rushed so quickly, I was like, what the fuck is this? That's how I felt about this scene. We spent a lot of time building up with these visions, and these visions were huge in terms of the story. All for it to be resolved so quickly was very disappointing to me. It was almost to the point where I wished these rumors of it being an hour 30 was true, because all this needed was a little bit more breathing time for it to be nailed down a little bit better. This just went so quick and was just an afterthought in the episode, and to me that's extremely disappointing. Yes, I know we will come back to it. I'm sure we'll get a little bit of a redemption arc with Henry going into season 5. But these visions left so much on the table, and I think it was just wasted potential the way they did it. The acting was great. Robert Joy and Scott McCord, I gave them their flowers when I interviewed them, and I still am. They did such a fantastic job. It's not their fault. I just think this scene got neglected, and I find that extremely unfortunate because it was supposed to be a good scene, and it was a good scene. Like, it was definitely a good scene. It was just rushed. And I don't know, I'm really disappointed about that because everything else before it was so good. And then this was good. It was good. It was just, I don't know. I was very disappointed with the way it was done. Anyway, after this, Sophia goes to the bar and she takes the talisman off of it, and Clara also comes to the bar with a ton of talismans, and she gives them all to Sophia, and what obviously means that they're both collectively collecting all of the talismans out of every home. I'm guessing Sophia was doing the ones in all of like the storefronts and all of that stuff, while Clara was doing the homes because she's like a little bit more trustworthy, which we're going to get to at the end. Anyway, Boyd, Fatima, and Ellis are about to enter into the tunnels. This is where the episode gets crazy. I mean, the episode's been crazy, but we're in the last two scenes. We have, last two big moments. This and then the boy in white scene at the end. But anyway, Boyd, Fatima, and Ellis are about to enter into the tunnels. Boyd's asking Fatima how her visions work, and she explains that it's different every time. And Boyd suggests that they should all stay close and that if anything goes wrong, Fatima and Ellis need to run right away. And they all agree, and then they go into the tunnels. And then we cut to Jade and Tabitha, who are still digging to break that barrier, but their hands hurt, and they're saying that they need shovels, and Tabitha suggests that they should just dig with the bones. So they begin doing so, and as they are, Boyd, Fatima, and Ellis are looking through the tunnels, which they're in now, and Fatima stops them because she can feel the monsters. And once she begins to feel them, one of them screams, so they stop, but they eventually then keep going once Fatima believes that the coast is clear. As this is going on, Jade and Tabitha are pulling out the bones and are having a really hard time believing that this is real. And Tabitha grabs one of the skulls from the bag and has a flashback, realizing the skull she is holding is their daughter's, and it's the one that we haven't seen this season at all. This is like, it's that one monster, or the one Ankui kid that we have not seen at all, which is, I thought it was really interesting, and I feel like they used flashback scenes, so I wonder if they weren't able to get the actress in that much, but I think maybe the one of her going like this was real. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, it's the girl that we haven't seen so far this season, and Tabitha explains that this was her, which is another fault of this episode, in my opinion, the runtime. Like, this should have been a little bit bigger of a moment, but it wasn't. And it's a little, she's just like, this was her. And then Jade's like, oh, okay. And then it just stops, because then we cut to Fatima, and she explains to Boyd and Ellis that the creatures know where Jade and Tabitha are, and that they have to get to them first. And then they find Jade and Tabitha, but as they're on the other side of the barrier, like where the bone thing is. And Fatima's staying back, and notes that the monsters are getting closer. So Boyd instructs Jade and Tabitha to stand back because he's got a gun. So he shoots out the barriers, and Tabitha and Jade come through. So now they're all together, and Fatima begins sensing, and then she says, they're here, you have to go. So she explains that she could buy them time, and Ellis says, what the fuck are you talking about? And Fatima says, remember who I was. And then Fatima turns around, approaching the monsters, and turns into one of them. And this was hard to keep in. This was very hard to keep in. I didn't have a lot of time. I went to Italy recently, so I wasn't really thinking about From over these last 2 weeks, but I watched the episode like 2 days before I left for Italy. So thank God I had something else on my mind, because this would have just ate me alive not being able to talk about this for weeks. But man, this was a crazy reveal. I know a lot of you guys saw this coming. I'm recording this. Today is Wednesday, so I'm recording this a few days before the episode drops. And man, I gotta tell you, like, this is great. I know that people saw this coming, because like, what else was this gonna be, what she is? But now that it's real, this is so awesome, because it opens so many doors for season 5. I'm so excited because she did the right thing. Like, she saved them. She distracted the monsters enough to buy Boyd, Ellis, Jade, and Tabitha time to get away. So in doing so, she saved them even when she was a monster, instead of turning on them and ripping them apart. Which is interesting, because it now tells me that there is, well, obviously we know they're all human. They were human at some point, but is it like a slower build up to like before they become vicious? Like, how does that work? Because she turned into the monster, and you would think, instead of like being like, remember who I was, and then saving them, that she'd turn around and try to kill them. Really interesting to me, the way that this was done, because now it opens up the door for, is maybe Fatima like the good monster? Or are we just seeing her now transform, and now she's going to become violent? Like, what? I don't understand this. But it's great because we don't lose Fatima. Like, we're still gonna, I guarantee you, we're still gonna see her in season 5, just now as a monster, which is interesting because, look, I didn't like what they did with Fatima this season. To be honest, I didn't like it at all. I wasn't a fan of what they did with her with the stupid frickin' golem and all of that stuff, which the plot went nowhere to that, by the way, which is something I am disappointed in. But that was just a waste of screen time. I didn't enjoy what they were doing with her, but this pays it off for me. This is great that they did this, because now her story, her arc is complete. It was complete, in my opinion, already. And now we get scenes with her that are going to feel very different. And I love that, because Fatima is the character that this should be happening to. If there is one, it should be this. So I guess technically there's 3 deaths in this episode if you count Fatima's death, but we're definitely going to still see her in a new way, which I think is really cool, and I think we'll do something really cool for Ellis. I think episode 1 of season 5 is going to be dynamite, and even more dynamite because of the next scene and the final scene of the episode. Sophia is walking into the woods with a bag of talismans when the boy in white appears walking right alongside her. Oh man, as they're starting to walk together and they're approaching a faraway tree, Sophia says, "Oh, look at you all grown up." And the boy in white says, "They have the bones." And Sophia replies, "But the bottle tree is gone." And the boy in white says to that, "You're going to lose this time," as they both approach that faraway tree. Sophia says, "I've always admired your optimism. I guess we'll see." And then proceeds to dump all of the talismans of all of the town into the faraway tree, which caused the boy in white to look scared and concerned. And as Sophia is dumping them, the talismans, you could see that the boy in white like walks off. But then it cuts to like a shot from up inside the faraway tree of her dumping all the talismans in, and then it cuts to black. Man, okay, all right. So this is not. I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw some people online saying that this is such a significant, some other people who have got the screeners, I'm not going to name names, but there were people saying that this is like such a crazy big reveal, such a crazy big cliffhanger. I will say it's a gigantic cliffhanger, because now going into episode 1, there's no talismans. This is going to be a huge thing for the survivors, because there's going to be a lot of survivors that do not know how to act without talismans. So that's a really big cliffhanger. But I definitely don't think that this was like this crazy of an ending. That I think a lot of people got overhyped. I worry that a lot of people are going to think these last 30 seconds. By the way, even maybe unfortunately, if I did explain it, I hope I didn't say anything to make you think that. But like, I saw that some people were saying these last 30 seconds were like gigantic and big and crazy. They were. Like, the talismans being dumped is a big, crazy reveal. The boy in white, technically in some form of partnership, even if it's not a good partnership, with the man in yellow, is a big reveal, but it's not that big of a reveal. Like, it's not that surprising. For me, I've always believed that the boy in white was good. There was never a shadow of a doubt to me that the boy in white wasn't trying to get the group to do the right thing. What the big reveal is here is that this is a game. This is a game of some kind, whether it's more of a religious game or whether, I don't know what it is. I still don't understand that, but this is a game of both good and evil. You could tell that because Sophia is clearly the good and the boy in white is Sophia is clearly the bad and the boy in white is clearly the good. But they still like work together, almost like in religion. You have angels and devils, and angels and devils, they don't like kill each other, but they exist on the same sort of plane. That's how this feels. But when he says that you're gonna lose this time, it's interesting to me because this just is a game, it seems. But it also means, even though the boy in white represents good, he's still not really on our team's side fully, because he's equally reporting to Sophia, they have the bones. Like, if he's saying that, clearly they are, like I said, in some sort of level game partnership, because why else would he be saying that to her? I understand his whole point was like, you're going to lose this time because they have the bones. I get that. But clearly this isn't their first conversation, even though they've said like, oh, look at you all grown up. They, like, I don't know, this scene, this is going to take me a lot more than this video to really dissect. Unfortunately, when I was on vacation, I wasn't really thinking about this, to be honest with you. So now, like, I'm sitting here back here, I can't really speculate too much on this. But I will say, I don't think this is as crazy of a reveal as the Man in Yellow's introduction. I know people who have seen it have said that this was such a crazy reveal. It was, but more or less, it was a big cliffhanger to set up what I think is going to have to be a fantastic first episode of season 5. I really do. Like, I think that's the best way to put it. I think, honestly, 2 big cliffhangers. Now that Fatima is a monster, which is really interesting, and that's like one big series of events to leave us on. So no talismans going into season 5 is going to be fucking crazy for season 5. And I hope, I do have faith, even though there were things that I didn't like in this episode, I do have faith that this is going to go really strongly for the final season, because this setup, how do you fuck this setup up? How do you fuck it up? And I understand a lot of people had problems with this season. I'm going to save my full season review for this, for sure. But I know a lot of people had a lot of problems with this season, but I think this season was extremely deliberate in what it was doing. That's why I loved it. This is my favorite season of the show, hands down. And I think it's because, no, we didn't get answers, but we got a clear direction for what this story is. Now we know this story is about saving these children. We know that for a fact. We know where this story's going. And yes, we don't have every answer. I'm okay with that. And I think this season, again, fully solidified that this was a big setup for all of the reveals, because this season was the reveal of what this story is. Before, we didn't really know. It was just a lot of crazy shit going on, and it told like a cohesive like line, but it didn't really give us enough. This season gave us, okay, oh, that's where the story is going. This season was basically, like, to me, explaining what From will be, not what From is, if that makes any sense. And I loved it for that, because I think it did a good job of setting up while giving us answers, while keeping the story very clear. To me, it's very clear that these writers have been planning this story for years, like they said they have. That's what this gives. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but it's very clear in the way the whole season was broken down. It's very clear that this is what's happening. Look, I thought this episode was dynamite. My voice is going from how long I've been talking, so I can't really talk too much longer. But this isn't the end of my From coverage. I'm going to be doing deep dives. I'm going to be doing a lot more, so definitely get subscribed if you haven't already. We still have a whole other season to go, and I believe tomorrow I will be posting an interview with a couple more people from the cast. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who, so I'm just going to leave it at that. So get subscribed, because there will be an interview coming out very soon, and plenty other deep dives. So I'm very excited to see you guys in all of the other stuff I do. Definitely let me know down below what you thought about this season. We are going to be doing a season review in the coming days, so we'll be talking about that more there. But I'd love to hear from you. How'd you feel about the episode, the season, all of that? Let's start a healthy conversation. And with all of that out of the way, thank you again so much for watching these. My channel has grown so much in this whole season, and I feel very blessed to be here, being able to do this with you guys. I'm very blessed as it is to have been able to have gotten these screeners to make this content, because, like, I gotta tell you, for Daryl Dixon and Dead City, without screeners and stuff like that, I don't think I'll be making hour-long videos. My pitch with these was, and I hope to try to do more of this, my pitch with this season was to try to be, I know a lot of people thought it was cringy, the way I kind of acted and all of that stuff when doing these. My thought was to turn the breakdowns, because I had knowledge, at least, like, not always, but because I had the screeners and stuff, I knew there was always going to be this inherent thought that my breakdowns were going to be from this place of bias. I knew that was going to exist. And I obviously, like, I see it from the other side. I understand how this stuff works. I get it. And there is obviously bias. Like, yes, I want to be in good graces, obviously. Like, I don't want to piss people off. Sure, that is true. But everything I've said about this season is genuinely from the heart. My point with what I did, with the way I did these breakdowns, I wanted to basically make like a Talking Dead for the show in these long breakdowns that I do, and just break down and talk and have like an after show. My goal was never to review these and all of that the normal way that I've done other shows. That's why this season felt very different from anything else I've done on this channel. These screeners gave me the opportunity to try to do something that I've never done, and basically turn this channel into an after show where people could come hang out. That's what I wanted. I hope that was conveyed to you guys. Now that we're kind of caught up in the moment to where I'm recording this very close to when this airs, I've gotten to see a lot of your feedback, and I really appreciate your support on these. It means a lot to see usually on average at least 20,000 people are sitting to watch an hour-long video with no cuts. There is no B-roll in these videos, and you're just coming to hang out. That means more than anything I've ever done in my career. I could cry about it. I'm not even kidding, I could cry about it. So thank you so much for that. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Because I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, man, I hope to see you for more. There's a ton more on the way. And again, get subscribed for season 5. Yeah, with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching these videos. And until the next one, I'll talk to you later. Peace out.